In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a toilet flange and a toilet seal. I'll be using some cleaning supplies, some PVC primer and glue, a sanding sponge or sandpaper, and a spackle knife to scrape. For the first step, I'm going to turn off the water supply to the toilet. Next step, flush your toilet to get all the sitting water in the bowl out. Then I'm going to unscrew the water supply from the toilet. I have a catch pan to catch a little bit of water that'll drip out. With the toilet separated from the water supply, you could remove the toilet. To do this, you need to loosen these nuts right here on your existing flange. If these are steel nuts, they're probably completely rusted on and you won't be able to get them off, so you might have to cut them off. Luckily mine are plastic, so this should just unscrew. If your toilet's really heavy like mine is, you could reduce the weight by just soaking a sponge and transferring it to a bucket. There's typically about this much sitting water in here, basically to the level of the flapper. So in this case, this is probably at least a gallon. I'm going to lift the toilet out of the way. If you have a junk towel, you could rest it on it instead of directly on the tile. Or you could just be very careful when you move it. In my case, I did not realize that there was actually a flange already here. See, this right here is the 4-inch pipe, and this is a flange. This is basically this part right here, and it looks like the previous owner broke it off and never bothered replacing it. So I'm going to show you how to remove this flange from the existing pipe, because right now it's PVC glued to it, but I need to remove it for this to fit since it's the exact same size right now. So to do that, I'm going to use a pry bar, a reciprocating saw with a blade for plastic. It doesn't have to be anything special, any generic blade will work. And I'm going to make a cut going down every about 1.5 inches, and then I'm just going to chip out the pieces. And to make sure this doesn't go down the pipe, make sure and fill it with something, a towel, or in my case I'm just using a sponge that I had earlier. You only want to go just till you get through the wall of this flange piece, otherwise you'll be cutting into your 4-inch PVC pipe. Okay, so I have my notches cut, so I'm just going to start at the edge. My pry bar and hammer and just a couple whacks should break them off. I'm going to remove the pieces, and some of the bottom pieces are still stuck, so you could use your pry bar to get them. If your pry bar is too wide, you could get a narrow object like a chisel. With it all cleaned up, I'm going to go and remove my stop, which in this case is my sponge. And to make sure I avoid any clogs, I'm going to shot back down the pipe for any loose plastic bits that might have gotten down. So here is the hole with the old flange removed. I got a little too aggressive making my cuts. You can see I went into the wall about halfway on about half of these cuts. But it's not a big deal since this just will be glued to the inside of that. Next up, I'm going to wipe this, make sure it's clean. I'm going to take my sanding sponge or sandpaper. Next, do a quick test fit of your flange. It's not sitting exactly flush on mine. There's a little bit of grout on the side, so I'm just going to chisel those off so that this will sit completely flat. Mine can sit completely flat now, and the flange part can rotate freely. So this is good to go. Next step, I'm going to glue the flange into place. So to avoid this issue in the future, so much work to cut this out. If for whatever reason this is completely broken beyond repair and you can't use it, what I'm going to do is not apply primer to the entire diameter. I'm just going to apply it right here, probably at 4 spots. That way it won't be completely welded and I won't have to chip out the whole thing in the future. This is very unlikely, but this is just less work and it's not that necessary because this shouldn't see a lot of force trying to pull out. So to apply the primer, make sure it's mixed up. What this primer does is it kind of chemically melts the plastic so that when you apply the glue, it'll bond it completely. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side of the flange. And you don't have to let the primer completely dry. Next, I'm going to apply glue to the entire diameter on this, since I just need to act it as a glue around everywhere else other than where I primed. Where I primed, it'll weld it directly to the inside there. And then I'm going to press it on, and I'm going to make sure and hold it on and line these up like this, because these are where your bolt's going to go through your toilet. It's not a big deal if this can rotate freely, but if it can't, then you definitely want them to be positioned correctly. And just hold it down for about 30 seconds. You'll need to clean the toilet side of any remaining wax. In my case, I actually discovered my old flange has been here the whole time. So, oh, it just fell off. So here's roughly what yours should look like. This is the wax ring right here, and there's the toilet part. Get access, you can lean it against a wall. Make sure it is not too slick. If this is something like marble, it's going to be too slick, and yeah, you might need to put a towel under the other side to give a little more friction. But you just need to get under here and scrape away any bits of wax. This is the wax right here. So you can use this to scrape it away. And make sure this is all clean, because this needs to create a nice seal. Next up, with the flange installed and everything clean, it's time to put on the seal. So it comes with new screws. So these slide in like this to lock it, and these slide on. These keep these vertical because you have to align the toilet up directly over them. So for now, just slide the washer down and leave these right here, roughly in line with where your toilet's going to go. Next step, it's time to put it on the seal. So per the instructions, if the flange is less than, or if your flange is above the level of the floor, you do not need this extra spacer. If it is level or down to a 1/4 inch beneath it, you use the spacer. And if it's beneath the surface of the floor more than a 1/4 inch, you have to use the spacer plus multiple of these seals, which you have to buy separately. So in my case, mine is exactly flush with the floor. So I should be able to get away with using the spacer. And the foam portion goes down to create the seal. So slide these over the bolts, and it'll rest right on this surface of the flange. This is the plastic part. Then you put this on. It's clear instructions. It faces. So that's basically it for my setup anyways. Now it is time to place the toilet on top of this. So make sure you have everything else out of the way so you can maneuver this and not throw your back out. It's completely aligned, but for whatever reason it's sitting too tall, so I'm going to have to remove that spacer piece. Next up, with your toilet down, it's time to install the nuts. In my case, I had plastic nuts from the previous flange. I'm just going to reuse these. If yours came with steel ones, you could use them, but these will still probably end up rusting. So it's easier to use the plastic ones so you don't have to cut the bolts next time you need to remove this. So put the washer on and then just tighten down the nuts. Before screwing these nuts all the way back on, if you aren't exactly sure that your toilet is seated correctly, you could go ahead and connect the supply back right now and do a test flush. That way you'll know for sure if there's a leak before putting all of this back on. So I have just put my supply back on and I haven't fully tightened these yet. So I'm going to do a quick test flush and make sure there's no water leaking out of the bottom here. If there are no leaks, you could go ahead and tighten everything up down there. Also, if your toilet rocks a little bit, you might have to put some shims at the bottom here. They sell little wedge-shaped shims to get the perfect fit so that there's zero rocking. For instance, in this case, these tiles aren't exactly flat, so I had to put a little piece of wood here just so it wouldn't rock. Okay, but now it's stable. In this video, I showed how to remove an old flange out of a PVC pipe, as well as install a new one, and how to install a toilet seal. Thanks for watching.